we're going to hope that everything's going smoothly because my computer is on the fritz. Hello, welcome to Office Hours with Amber. I'm Amber. This is Office Hours. April is starting off with one of my most feared, not feared. I don't fear it. I am intimidated by LETs only because they lead into the gateway drug that is lambdas. Like LETs are the gateway drug to lambdas. Okay. Seems like the stream is working, so we're gonna let that roll. Okay. I don't know why. I'm just a little nervous today. The LETs because they are very similar to Power Apps Month, because there's so much you can do with LETs, it's just an open sandbox to be able to help you do more efficient things. It's going to take a lot of rewiring my brain of ways of working. And preliminarily, what I know about LETs is this is a way of introducing variable declaration and homogenizing a lot of different Excel functions in one cell. No one died from LETs. You know what, Don? You're so right. I don't need to be afraid of them. But yes, I think there's big opportunity for me to be able to spend the month really diving into LETs so that next month I'm very, very, very well equipped for lambdas. But we are not focused on lambdas this month, just LETs. I have zero hopes that when I play these videos that the frames per second is going to last, so y'all will have to let me know. But yeah, before we even get into YouTube, we're going to be ChatGPTing, we're going to be Googling, kind of laying the land. If I look a little frazzled today, it's because I'm a little tired, because my birthday was this weekend and I have not recovered. I've turned 30 and hold on, partner, I am overstimulated. This is the perfect, I think I just need the whole, there we go, whole sweatshirt. This is what 30's like so far. Life's pretty cool, but I'm just a tired girl. But let's get into it. Deep breaths. I've pulled up I looked for a few YouTube videos just to make sure they exist. Obviously they do. I've got my ChatGPT. I've got my Excel. I encourage, if you are working on anything today, any of your goals, feel free to take the hour to start looking into them. Liana, thank you so much. The 30 clubs is great. I'm having a good time in here. All of my friends in their 30s are having the blast. So I'm not afraid of my 30s, but man, I'm a little tired. But okay, let's do LETs. Let's learn LETs. So before I even get started, I'm just gonna go into ChatGPT and I'm gonna let it just give me the best idea it has. Hi, I want to learn about Excel's modern function equals let. I like to lead off with a modern Excel function because sometimes it likes to just go back to the old days. Many people have died from the 30s though. Ugh, you're so right. But not me. I'm unstoppable. I like to tell ChatGPT to think about it in the modern Excel world because sometimes it likes to go all the way back to basics. It's like, have you tried Access? It's like, no, that's not actually what I want to do. We're working with it. I want to learn about the Excel's modern function, let. Can you give me a basic definition of what it is, when I should use it, and some creative uses of it? Let's just see what it says. I should have background music, but my computer might explode. Sorry, guys. Oh, we've got a visitor. Come on, Banjo. The main party. Honestly, let's just take a break. We've got Banjo here. He has been up my butt since I got home, so he shall be in my lap for the most of this. Oh my God, you smell so bad. He's getting groomed tomorrow. Thank the Lord. Hi, Stinky. It's okay, I stink too. Lay down, please. Oh, okay, we're going to the donut. Perfect. Okay, back on subject. Okay, basic structure. You can assign as many names, values, and then set a calculation. So it always will have an odd number. I think I heard someone say it always has an odd number of criteria. So you can't have like name, value, and then no calculation. Or you can't have name, value, name, and not declare what that new value is. Okay. So we can define multiple values. We love. When to use let. We're just going to copy paste this in. When to use. When you're repeating the same calculation multiple times, your formula is getting long and hard to read. You want to improve performance on large spreadsheets, and you're doing multiple calculations in one step. So I did see someone else say something along the lines of like if some sort of X lookup, looking up a value 10 in an array of, let's just say over here, this is a horrible example, return array, blah. If that equals 0, oh. Yes, and then no, but then also if this is all an error, then if you're like repeating XLOOKUP like 6 times, instead of doing that, you can say like the X, whatever the result of the XLOOKUP is the variable. So the variable name would be like A equals the value of what comes out of the XLOOKUP, that, and then you can do the calculation step is basically if this, do other things. And that's the thing about lets, is that they are such a sandbox that it's hard to describe anything without really doing it. So we're just going to keep going. This is about learning. Creative and practical uses of Excel to up your Excel game. So let's just, we'll just toss. I almost need music. This is tough. Oh, I wonder how. So before I even get started, first we'll keep going. This is about learning. Seems like the frames per second's doing fine. We'll see how it does when I start doing a YouTube video. Okay, so if we're to follow the logic, X equals A plus B. And then the calculation is this squared and multiplied by 2. Okay, that's a simple example. Cute. Okay. Unpacking long formulas. So let's just dump it in there and see what happens. And I need to put this data somewhere more relevant, but guess what? Don't care. Okay, so we're letting the variable average equal that. Then your calculation 2, so name 2 is standard deviation, pulls the standard deviation. The third variable value is A1. So it's comparing the first thing to the rest of the things. If the absolute value of A1 minus the average is greater than 2 times the standard deviation, it's an outlier. Okay. What's cool about this is you're doing 1, 2, 3 big things to result in one, like you're declaring, really, if you were to originally do this, you would have had to do this in like 4 cells. And this is really good for the future proofing of a lot of sheets, because if you could do it in one, the odds that someone's going to mess up one cell, I mean, the odds that anyone messes up any cells is very high. But if you, hey Jody, but the cool thing about this is if you can then just do everything in one cell rather than having to do it in like 16 or a whole helper column, that will dramatically decrease your recalculation speed. And I'm thinking back to every single Excel spreadsheet I've ever made. I don't want to throw up, but that's not my problem. Okay. Make formulas easier to follow with nice names. Okay, I also love this. Okay, let's do it. So similar, now that I've been kind of using, so I'm going to move things out of the way as we're done with them. So in this, so similar to a named range of data, it's nice to be able to name your variables instead of having to go and find what was A2, what was this, what was that. Because people similar to, all right, we're just going to chat. Similar to, where was I going with this? I think I'm having a stroke. I was talking with someone a bit ago, and it's easy to teach people shapes and colors because numbers are always scary to people, no matter what. And I can't tell you the psychology of that. Especially, there's folks that interact with Excel who like use Excel all the time, and then there's people that don't. And the people that don't, if they go into an Excel sheet and they see A2 $sign equals bracket this, bracket that, it starts to look like hieroglyphics. And if you're not prepared for it, you might get nervous. And the whole point of Officers of the Amber and the way I work with my clients is making things more approachable to be able to do more. So I think LETs are going to be a very nice way for me to step by step explain exactly what's happening in this calculation. Now it won't be able to, it's not going to be foolproof because XLOOKUPs are going to look scary to anybody, or some ifs are going to look scary to anybody. But if I can assign variable names that people are not afraid of, that makes the training process of what's going on in each cell a little easier. We love. Back on subject. Back on. So Jody, what about Excel or like learning a new language or seeing numbers makes you nervous? Or are you joking? You might be joking. Debug formulas like a scientist. You can replace one piece at a time. Okay, I love this as well. So the cool thing is at the end, if we zoom into this area here, which I don't know how to zoom, but at the end, you don't actually need to result in a calculation. You just need to result in a something. So here it's not asking, so in the other example, that seems like a pretty big calculation, a big if statement, some big thing happening. You can also let it result in a calculation or like a variable name to display. So in this scenario, if we wanted to see which step was having an issue, combination of letters, numbers, and symbols. I am good with numbers, but throwing other stuff in there gets me. I feel that. So I feel like, especially being able to write out your variables in English, I think depending on the way you teach it might be helpful for lowering the barrier to entry to like understand the calculations, especially when you get into the nested with like all of the like parentheses and stuff and tracing the parentheses around. Being able to see line by line exactly what's happening, I think is kind of beneficial. So I'm going to do a few different options here. So I'm actually going to say revenue, cost, profit, margin. So interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the let function 4 times. Oops. I'm going to lock some stuff. Uh-oh. Okay, we're going to go over here. So in this example, our let function is written like this. So it's got revenue equals, well, let's just, there we go. Revenue equals I22, which is here. And we've got cost that equals J22. So here we're returning margin, but if I was to change that to revenue, then it would return that. So you can then quickly, like what this is saying, debugging the thing. So if you're like, why is it getting that result? I could trace myself way back, all the way through, whether that's manually by putting revenue, or I could have it reference this name, I think. Just kidding. Maybe text of that. Ooh. Let's do maybe the value we just want is text, so I don't think that's actually going to work the way I think it is. Can I return basically I want it to be able to, based on this cell, like the contents, I don't know how to describe what I'm trying to say. I don't know how to cell I16 has contents are the same as a variable name in the let function. I don't think that what I just asked is going to result. It won't interpret that as that. And I can't use indirect. It knew. And the lookup key is I16. Switch? I don't like that. It seems like there's a way to do it, but I don't think that's for me to know right now. But that's cool. Okay, we're going to go back in time. Basically, we're going to say revenue. This one to say cost. This one to say profit. And this one to say margin. So then if you were to follow the bunny trail of the profit equation, so profit should equal this minus this, which it does, and then margin should be profit divided by revenue, which is 80. So like the nice thing is you can quickly toggle through each, you can step through it kind of like stepping through like VBA. Okay, I digress. Cute, we love. I feel like I skipped over some stuff. Okay, so we can debug really well, which we love, which is very similar. There's a parallel with Power Query, because in Power Query, if we were to go, we're not even going to go look. All I'm saying is the let in Power Query operates very familiarly to this, because it would be like the hashtag like applied step equals insert column, match on this, add this, blah, 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 blah. And then you would have it at the very end show, like, let's just pretend this is a data table. I don't even want to do this. I'm getting distracted. Yep, don't care. Okay, anyways, the let here and the let in Power Query feel very similar. Okay, you can also combine it with dynamic arrays, apparently. So let's just go put some dummy data in there. B is looking for opened or close. Where did it go? A17. Okay, some dummy data. Now let's look at making them the same size. Okay, filter this, then sort the filter. Okay. What makes that special? Okay, the variable name is filtered. Okay. So with that example, really all that did was clear up, it seems, one step. So if I wanted to equals sort. So with this, because it was so simple, okay. The difference between these two is that if I was to do 6, 7, 8, 9 dynamic arrays stacked on top of each other, that's where you'd get into a circumstance where it's like parentheses, 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 like there's gonna be like 7 of them. And with dynamic arrays, what I found is a lot of it is like stacked like that. So I think this is kind of cool that although yes, in this scenario doesn't need that, it is like pretty straightforward. If you wanted to do multiple things, so you could then take that sorted filtered data, and then have it do, one question I have for anyone that's listening is obviously these have like really nice tabs to them. I don't know how to make a tab inside of, well, let's ask. When editing in Excel function. I don't know if it's going to understand what I just asked. Alt enter to go to the next line. That's fine. Oh, it's just saying to use spaces, which I don't feel like is right, but see, oh, you do shift enter and that creates the indent. See, we have alt enter that creates a new line, which is fine. Alt enter is great, but like the shift tab indent is just spaces. There's got to be a better way, but none of my business right now. There's all these like, I don't know, in the coding community, there's a lot of like hygienic things you should do. And I think when you're in like Power Query or M or DAX or any of those, you can like leave yourself notes and like, comment things out and have the correct indent structure. But if it's saying no, then it's saying no. But I do love, obviously, the alt enter. Because otherwise, if you were to put these all in one row, like and not alt enter, I think lets would be really ugly. But they're not. Anyways, okay. The cool thing is then, what are my other dynamic arrays? I'm going to, actually, let's do this. Before that, I want to do unique A17 A115, and then the filter is of the uniques. I don't know. I don't think that's going to work, actually. Maybe. Because I think you have to have the whole... Let's just do that part. Ugh. Did it work? Maybe I don't need the... Okay, you don't need it. Okay, cool. So similar thing. So what I could have done is instead just done equals unique, that is filter by this, that is then sorted so it returns the same. So like for instance, if I was to put like, oh come on, that's fine. There's not going to be any uniques. That's kind of a silly thing. But in the circumstance of doing sort, filter, unique, and like, especially because there's like take, choose, map, scan, like you could do 15 different dynamic array functions all on top of each other. And so the let at least makes it separate with like, okay, first it's doing this, then filtering, then sorting. Because really, if you're going inside of if you don't have the let function, you'd have to kind of take a guess of what's happening first. You'd have to go to the innermost parenthesis and then go unique is happening first, and then it's being filtered, and then it's being sorted. And so that's, hey Matt, that's really big for process wise, like being able to like step through a process with someone of like what's actually happening without them really needing too much information. Now, yes, if you're not familiar with like variable creation, that might be a little scary, but that's okay. Okay, cool. Okay. Excel Labs. Okay. There is some add-ins that are really good at helping you. So OA Robot is one of my future months. I'm going to try to learn the basics of lets and lambdas before I go into OA Robot land. But OA Robot is a great add-in that helps. There's like a Lambdify, or like there's like a Lambda creator in there. Super great. But the cool thing, okay, so talking about the trajectory of where we're going. So lets are all about variable creation, putting sequential order of calculations to happen. Additionally, you can do concurrent calculations. So so just because in this scenario, unique goes into the next one and filtered goes into the next one, doesn't mean that you actually have to do that. So in I think a similar scenario, we did something where 3 separate things were happening and they come together at the end. So you could say let A equals 100 times something else. B is a today minus 123, who knows. C is a rand, who knows. And then D is A plus B plus C. I don't actually think, we actually don't need the D to be declared because it's just, so in that circumstance, A, B, and C are completely independent from each other, and then they only come together. Or really, you could just say, I just want A plus B. Like, I don't even want C to be involved. I just put in some random stuff in my let function just to, like, have, I guess. But you could do it. Yeah, I mean, you could do anything you want. I digress. But the cool thing is, so the let is doing all this legwork over here. The cool thing with lambda. Oof. So what I've heard, word on the street, is that you can load your lambdas into the naming manager to basically create your own custom functions. And so that's where a lot of the competitive Excel world is using them to create like similar things that they know in the heat of battle that they need to be able to do quickly. And it's like, why recreate the wheel 16 times if I already know I have a lambda created to count the most of something happening, or create, like take a grid and put it into one singular column that I can reference off of, or have things. So the Excel community has been popping off on lambdas, and I'm excited to have the context and awareness of when they make the most sense for me to use. It's tough because and this is kind of a separate philosophical thing, but back in 2008, I got Photoshop 7 and I was super stoked about it, and I watched all these YouTube videos and I learned how to use it, and then eventually Photoshop 10, 11, CS1, CS2, CS6, all of these like crazy updates to Excel or PowerPoint. Photoshop came out, and then I was very much in the way of like, well, I used to have to use the Band-Aid tool to do this and this and this, and it used to take me hours to do, and like these new Photoshop users don't even have to know how to use this, and blah, 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 blah. And the thing is, nobody cares how long it takes you to do something. If you want to do it the old slow way, you can, but like you don't get an award for living life on hard mode. So like that's where I have to like very much stay, and that's the whole practice office hours with Amber is like practice staying in the know of all the new stuff, because you don't get an award for doing like these crazy Excel functions if you can do it easier with a lambda, doing these like, especially if you're creating these really nice pre-written, like you're doing all this work to create all of this like logic and reasoning, you might as well reuse it instead of wasting your own time 6 times. Like, blech. Okay, I digress. Okay. So I'm gonna ask it a few more questions because I feel like I'm still very much in like the I don't know how. Next week's gonna be very important for me to really associate friction points I'm having with what I want to accomplish. I just recently used it in a profitability calculator for to be able to associate like how many months I need spilled. Actually, I'm going to pull that up. No, that's a next week's problem. We just need to keep going. Okay. I work in Okay, basically, I work in industrial engineering. What are ways that this could be helpful for me? Okay. I need to figure out what this switch business is about. Tiered pricing. This feels kind of wrong because it feels like you're not redeclaring the price, but maybe that's all inside of one. Okay, quantity, let's just say quantity is this. So, oops. If quantity is 10, 20. Okay, I kind of like the tiered pricing situation. Where does it? Okay, I see. So because that's all entirely inside of the parentheses, that's why you can get away with doing that. Okay, I'll let it live. But I do like that this is not a huge tangled. Now, honestly, you could write if statements like this anyway, just to be able to see the nested if scenario. Can you do a nested let scenario? Later us issue. Sensitivity testing within one. You can plug sequence in to make a year by year. Ooh, let's try that. Years is sequence of a variable. of a variable. Come, one column, start, start, start. How does that work? Oh, okay, that's cool. Okay, that's very cool. Okay, let's do this. So this is spilling the forecast out. Okay, okay. If I put this, so that will spill at the same rate as this, because if I do, oh wow. I'm gonna sit with that for a sec. Interesting. So the cool thing about this is that because these are both dynamic arrays, I only need this one cell. I don't need to keep dragging this cell down. It's already spilling at the same rate as what's happening here. Which is really important if you're like, hey, we need the forecast out for the next 16 months. You're like, or 16 years. You're like, yep, we got 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 years. And then for a user tool, instead of teaching someone how to pull an Excel function down or do any of that, you just say, change this button. I have big fears that my creativity at this moment, that's not the point of this week. The point of this week is just to see what's possible, which I really like this. Cool. Stacking different ones, multiple step performances. Reduces error of duplication, because that's the other thing is if you have handing off models to coworkers is actually huge, and being able to clearly see your dynamic array functions. Okay, I think I've done enough on YouTube. I'm just gonna start poking around I've done enough in ChatGPT. Let's just poke around in YouTube. Trying to find someone recent. Oh yeah, 5 months ago is not that bad. See, I'm trying to stay away from Lambda this month. Okay, actually, I do want to see what this switch business is about.
I switched from due dates to due dates, and it made me go from weeks behind to weeks ahead of my deadlines. You see, I used to just bet.
Come on. Enough.
Hi, I'm Jamie, and welcome to Teachers Tech. Today I want to show you how the switch function can outperform if statements in Microsoft Excel. If you'd like to follow along with today's lesson, I have the practice sheet down below in the description where you can click on it and download it
like
and work through it as I show you.
Okay, so
I'm kind of curious, how many of you have heard of the switch function in Microsoft Excel before, and how many have used it, and what are the results when you're using it? Let me know down below in the comments. So what we're going to do, first of all, is I'm going to show you the if statement that I've already created in this one, and I'm going to create the same type of functionality with the switch statement down below. So if you take a look at the formula bar up here, you can see I have the if statements, it's nested ifs in it. It goes through and finds if this number matches to whatever, it's going to give back the word, like average here. So 3 equals average. In this case, I copied it down. Good is 4, and so on. So it works well, it copies down. But now we're going to create the switch, show you the switch function in here. And I just want to show you why it's a little bit more streamlined and a little bit more efficient to use, especially if you're adding to it. So let's go ahead and start this. Let's go ahead and start the switch function right here in D12. I'm just going to place my equal sign and start typing switch, and I have it right here. So we can take a look at what it does. Evaluates an expression against a list of values and returns the result corresponding to the first matching value. If there's no match, an optional default value is returned, and I'll place that at the end. So let's go ahead and select that switch. And I'm going to start with selecting the cell that I'm going to be looking at. And it's going to be this one right here. So that's my reference. Place my comma in. And all I have to do now is give it the first, what it's going to be looking for. So the number 1, comma. And if it is number 1, what do I want it to be? Well, it's just going to say poor. And then I can just place another comma, put my 2, a comma, and then place what's the 2 going to be equal to.
Oh.
So this is going to be below average, like so, and we can continue on. So let me go ahead and fill this out. And so notice when I got to the end, not rated, there's no number that's compared to there. So it's just going to be, if it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's what's going to have the option. Now, notice when I do this, it just has the 1 bracket at the end, 1 bracket at the very beginning, not like the nested if that had to close every one of those opening brackets. So if I was going to make this longer, I can just quickly add another comma in here and continue on with my list. Let's go ahead and hit enter.
It's like a baby
copy
lookup
this
table.
down, and you're going to see it gives me the same results. But the advantage of this is going into this and formatting it. If I needed to add more, when I compare it to this, you can see this is a little bit longer, and there's just a few more things you have to adjust to make changes to. Let me give you another example now. Before I move over to the example 2, I just want to show you that the switch function did work. If it wasn't listed, it took the alternative, not rated there. Now at the bottom, move over to example 2, and we're going to do a operation, so multiplication using the switch function. So I'm going to have this right here. So here's total sales, and we have regions, but the commission is different for each region. So I'm going to be multiplying this by a certain number based on it switching to north, south, east, west, central, or other. Now I'm going to place my switch function in here. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. But the first thing I'm going to do is just select this cell and start my multiplication. So this is going to be multiplied. And now I can start my switch here. And I'm going to choose this and start filling it out. So it's going to be based on D2 because it's going to look up what region it is. And then, so what I put my comma in, and then it's going to be saying north. Make sure that we have everything spelled exactly the same. And north is going to be a certain commission. So I'm going to say it's going to be 0.05. And then we can place our comma and then go ahead and type our next one like so. So we're going to keep filling this out just like we did before. So I'm going to go quickly finish this up. So now I have it all finished up. I closed it up. I have north, south, east, west with the different commission rates for each of them. Notice that I don't have central in there because it's going to be the other one, the only other option, and I'm just going to put 0 there. So that's what it should give back. So let's hit enter and copy this down. And so central shouldn't be anything if I copy it down, and you can see that it is at 0. So
I have like it's switch when partnered with I don't know if switch would work when it's looking for numbers or like I'd have to look closer, but like I could see that being inside of the let function being cool, but I am more apt to use a lookup table or a reference table instead of a if this then that, or like a look for this and return that. If it would be good for things that are unchanging, but hit or miss. Hit or miss. Hit or miss. It's cool. Do not get me wrong, especially for quick calculation. Big vibes. I digress.
So at each of these with an if statement, and then I'm going to put a nested switch inside of it. Let me explain what I can see and assign a number to how. This is where the switch here.
Whoa.
And it needs to assign a number to medium, easy, hard, different numbers. And then it needs to look at urgency and assign a number to high, low, medium. And it needs to add these two together to get a final number. But at the same time, if any of these are blank, I need it to just return a priority score of 0. So I'm going to click in where my formula is and take a look at it. So you can see I started with an if here, and then I had an or statement, and I used
I don't think I asked that question very well. Can't handle ranges, so okay. Switch works when it's looking for specific matches. But ifs? Okay, vibes. At least we know. I'm just going to put this into... But you can still have... If we're matching... So honestly, with Switch, I don't think I'd use it that often. Unless it was like a quick... bucketed something that like I just needed quick guidance on that I didn't want a like side lookup table for. Honestly, a switch is probably more effective than sometimes using the lookup tables, but like I could, okay, actually I could see myself during Excel battles definitely using switch because there's sometimes not enough time to do like a if this equals that or whatever. Especially like I did the Harry Siders case and it was like if W replaced with, that would have been nice, but I always forget ifs is a thing, to be honest. I should use that more. Okay, we probably have time for one more video.
I wonder if HoneyBook has any new
Ads.
You to declare variables and intermediate calculations in different types of aggregations, whether it's total or sum, minimum, maximum, or average. I actually created this example back in 2016 and I'm updating it here to use with the let function. The form control buttons output to cell F6, so as I select a different button, it returns the number of the selected button. I'm going to use the subtotal function to aggregate the data. You could also use the aggregate function if you prefer, but I'm going to stick with subtotal. Now I can see
I don't think I've ever used subtotal.
Subtotal allows me to specify the aggregation method,
Oh,
but I need to convert the value returned by the radio button here to the aggregation type numbers in the subtotal function. We can see the numbers are 1 for average, 4 for max, 5 for min, and 9 for sum. So I need to convert 1, 2, 3, and 4 to their respective numbers. And I'm going to use the choose function for this. Equally, I could use the switch function. So choose requires an index number, and I'm going to use this cell here for that, which is the output of my radio button. So with the first radio button selected, it returns number 1, and 1 is total, which should be number 9 in my subtotal list. So 1 is 9. 2 is min, that's number 5 for subtotal. 3 will be max, that's number 4 for subtotal. And average is number 4, which is number 1 for subtotal. So close parentheses, and you can see at the moment it's returning 9, which is the sum. As I select a different radio button, it returns the relevant number for subtotal. So that's how we're going to use choose. I'm just going to delete that because we don't need it there. I just wanted to explain how it works. I'll get started with let. Again, let's pop up here to the formula bar, Alt Enter to go to the next line. So I'm going to specify my range. It's going to be these cells here. Alt Enter. Then I want to name the cell that contains the selection in the radio button. So I'm going to call that select, and that's this cell here. Alt Enter. Now I'm ready to use choose to convert the radio button number to the subtotal aggregation type. So I'm going to call it ag, and we need choose, and here I'll use a previously declared name for the index number, and that's select. And notice again it appears in the IntelliSense, so I can just tab to enter it. The next argument will be the numbers. So remember, 1 is total, so that's 9. Then min is 5, max is 4, and average is 1. Close choose, comma, Alt Enter. Lastly, I just enter the subtotal formula, which asks for the function number. Well, remember we've declared that up here with ag, so I can just copy and paste that in if I like. Comma, what's the reference? Well, that's the range we declared earlier. Close subtotal, close let, and press enter. Now when I choose a different radio button, you can see my formula automatically updates. Now as a finishing touch, it'd be nice to add a dynamic label using choose. So again, we're going to reference this cell here, and all I need to do is type in the different text that I want returned depending on the radio button selected. So minimum, maximum, and average. Close parentheses, and I'll append this to some more text so that it has a nice label that explains exactly what's being displayed in the cell. When you use relative references in a let formula, you can copy it to other cells and have it automatically update just like any other formula. For example, here I want to summarize the data in this table by brand and month. I can use a SUMIFS formula for this, but let will make the formula easier to.
I don't know if anyone just saw my face for the last 2 minutes. Whoa. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go watching more of my online training hub, her videos. What is her name? What is her name? What is her name?
Text file. The new let function enables you to declare variables.
What is her name? My online training hub. That blew my damn mind.
Hi, I'm Minda Tracy. Welcome.
Minda Tracy just fucking clocked me. Like, that was crazy. Okay, I'm gonna go watch Minda Tracy's videos for the rest of the night. That was crazy. I can't even properly describe to you what that just meant. But the cool thing is, with dynamic arrays, because I did the legwork of dynamic arrays back in January, now I'm understanding how the references kind of dynamically shift, and then also using the choose, which choose is new. I think I need to work on switch, map, scan, and choose. And then that all are good building blocks for scan, as well as all of the other dynamic arrays. But that was crazy. Anyways, I have so much work to do. So I'm going to go hang out in the chit-chat chamber for a little bit. Banjo's very upset. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you guys had oodles of fun. I think I went nonverbal for half of this, but that's okay. Banjo, why are we upset? I know, it's the end of the show. Anyways, I'm going to go over to Discord. I never know when this is going to stop, so goodbye.